Well, thank you everybody for being here. This is kind of an addendum to my presentation a couple of weeks ago. This is called Sigils. It's an easy and fast way how to do it. And I titled it Creating Magical Sigils for Prosperity and Everyday Life. So, welcome everyone. I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much. I wrote this to be very clear, hopefully, and easy. And this assumes absolutely zero magical experience from anybody listening now or on YouTube or wherever we post it. This will emphasize positive intention and forward focus on desired effects or outcomes with intention, and an activity later that everybody can do simply without any special training or skill. So it will be interactive. Grab a sheet of paper and a pencil when you can. And at the very end, I have a nice meditation to close this particular lecture. So, a little background here about the practical and magical history of sigils and including how they potentially began, because we're really not certain. Also, how they were used in old magic, in what possible countries and why, and then how they were passed down through time to exist as they are today and used today. So, sigils, in their most practical sense, likely began the moment humans realized that a mark, a specific mark, could stand for a meaning. So, long before formal writing systems, of course, early humans carved symbols into stone or bone or cave walls to represent animals, protection, territory, or unseen forces. And these markings weren't just decorative, they were believed to carry intention into the world. So, in this way, sigil magic may have grown naturally out of humanity's first symbolic language, which is the understanding that drawing something with purpose or intention could influence reality, perception, or even spiritual forces. Now, as cultures developed, sigils became more structured with magical transitions and traditions. In places like ancient Egypt, symbols and hieroglyphs were not only a written language, but they were also tools of power. They were used in amulets, in tombs, in ritual objects to invoke protection and also prosperity. So, fast forward a bit, in medieval England and across Germany, grimoires and folk magic traditions introduced more formalized sigils, which were often derived from sacred alphabets, planetary correspondence, or even with the names of spirits. And just in case anybody has never seen one, a sigil is just like a symbol that you create. Now, these were used that time in medieval England and Germany for very specific purposes, which was to attract wealth and protect livestock, to ensure good harvests, or guard the home and the family. Now, sigils weren't abstract mysticism, they were actually working tools for everyday survival and stability. Now, across different regions, similar ideas appeared independently. In China, for example, the Taoist talismans, sometimes called fu symbols, were hand drawn and sigil like scripts used for protection, healing, and spiritual authority. And across the world, in Iceland, magic staves such as the Vigvisir and Eglisjalmur functioned as symbolic instructions for guidance and protection. And please excuse me if I mispronounce those two words because I don't speak Icelandic. Now, despite cultural differences, the underlying belief remained consistent. And that was that a symbol, when created with focused intent specifically, could actually bridge the invisible and visible worlds. So, over time, sigils were passed down through a mixture of oral tradition and written text, written by hand, of course, and personal practices hand down from the family members. Now, much of the old knowledge survived very quietly and shared between practitioners. A lot of it was hidden in folklore or preserved in family customs rather than formal institutions. Now, until the late 19th and early 20th centuries, um, figures like Austin Osman Spear simplified sigil creation, into a highly accessible method. And this was by removing vowels, combining letters, and embedding intention into abstract symbols and forms. His approach actually shifted sigil magic away from the rigid systems where it had been living and being used, and more towards something more intuitive and personal and actually psychologically inclined and aligned. Now, today, we've way fast forward to the 21st century. Sigils exist in a very lovely, simplified, actual full circle form. So, what once required sacred language or strict rituals or rare knowledge has returned to something very simple and direct and very human. Modern practitioners use these sigils for prosperity, emotional balance, protection, and daily life, often without any formal training at all, which is the whole purpose of tonight's lecture. In essence, sigil magic has endured because it adapts. It meets people where they are using the same core principle it always has, and that is focused intention, given shape, has the power to influence both the inner world and the outer experience of life. Now, opening the doors to sigils was something interesting that I found. The purpose is to remove fear or mystique or gatekeeping around the sigils themselves. A couple of key points that I thought were interesting is that symbols are actually symbols of intention. And of course, humans have used symbolic magic since cave paintings, not just sigils, but symbolic magic. You don't need to have any psychic ability or intuition. You don't have to be initiated into anything special. You don't have to have expensive tools. If you can focus and imagine, you can make a sigil. The core message here is that sigils are simple intention that are made visual. So think about that for a second. If you have an intention, you can make it visual, actually manifest its sigil on a paper or a rock or a cave. So, what a sigil actually is a visual shortcut for a desired outcome. It's a way to communicate directly with the subconscious, and it's a focusing device for intention. Your forward focus is that we do not focus on lack or the negative. What we do focus on when we do this creation is on the positive. So, what is happening? What is unfolding? What is becoming true? A couple of really good examples I found. You don't want to say something negative like, I don't want to be broke, meaning financial lack. That's a negative. Turn it around to a positive and think, money flows easily to me. Remember, attitude counts. Now, I found a method called the 2 to 4 word. Actually, I kind of fudge it a little bit. I go 2 to 5 words occasionally, depending on what my intention is. Short phrases are very powerful because they're easier to hold in your mind. They're emotionally cleaner and clearer. Um, they have less mental resistance because it's easy and simple, and they're easier for the subconscious to accept. So the ideal structure of these is present tense, so now, being positive, being emotionally neutral or pleasant, and being very simple in the wording. So a couple of examples are opportunities find me, or steady income flows, peace fills my home, my health strengthens. If it feels good to say it quietly, it's definitely usable. If it feels a little muddled, then try to simplify it. Okay. So choosing prosperity and everyday intentions is pretty easy. If you think about it, prosperity isn't just money. It includes time, energy, ease of doing things, safety, support and foundation, creative flow. And I encourage personal relevance. And I'm going to ask you to choose one desire only when we do our interactive exercise or craft, however you want to think about it. One desire only, something realistic and gentle, something that improves your daily life. Um, a good focus for beginner or advanced practitioner is either finance, workflow, being calm, protected, motivated, better or restful sleep, or confidence. Now, think about that for just a second. These are very simple concepts. That's exactly what we want. Remember, intention is energy. Okay. So, when you create a sigil, it's a step by step process. First, you're going to write, maybe 3 to 5 possible phrases that you like in the simplest manner possible, just like what we were reviewing a minute ago. Read each of them silently. You can say it out loud very softly to yourself if you'd rather. Notice if you have any body tension or an emotional resistance or something is going on. Choose the one that feels smooth and easy. Okay. Refine that phrase that you've chosen. If it feels heavy, you can shorten it. If it feels forced, soften it, maybe change a word or two, or turn the words around, having the meaning the same way. If it feels a bit unreal, you can always simplify it. So definitely listen to your intention, your intuition, listen to your subconscious, because the subconscious actually prefers believable magic. All right, so believe this is where we get to have some fun. I hope everybody's got their piece of paper and their pencil, because what we're going to do is we're going to go back and write those phrases from 3 to 5 possible phrases. You don't have to. If you have one, that's great. If you have two, that's great. We're going to take a couple of minutes, read each of them silently. Notice if your body has any movement or tension or shifts. Think about which one feels smooth and easy. Remember, if it's heavy, you can shorten it. It feels forced, soften it. If it feels unreal, you can simplify it. Keep it simple. It's the KISS principle, KISS, keep it simple, silly. Okay. So the one that I picked as a demonstration, kind of an example, will come up in just a second. And as you continue with your sentences, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little extra information here about how to turn your words into the sigil. This is your magic plan. The simple magic method, excuse me. From the practice, choose which phrase you want, of course. And then what we will do all together is remove the vowels and then the repeating letters. Then we'll combine the rest of the letters because that's playtime. Remember, there's no wrong way to do this. Let it evolve naturally. Okay. Important points, of course, there is no wrong shape. Beauty is optional. Your symbol can be structurally basic or unadorned. Meaning matters more than aesthetics. If you want to do curly cues all over the place because it pleases you, do that. If you just want angular stick representations of the letter combinations, do that. For those of you that have done bind runes before, it's very, very similar. You put them together with a similar basis, whether it's horizontal, vertical, diagonal. Be playful. Rotate the letters. You can merge the lines, curves instead of straight lines, or a combination. Trust your instincts. And I hope everybody's got at least one they can play with, because we are going to get into what my example is. I chose the phrase, money flows to me daily. It's a good thing not to put an amount unless you're being specific because you have a specific need. So I hope everybody has that phrase on their piece of paper. What we're going to do, and you can actually take a pen and just cross through the letters when we do this, is take out the vowels. Let me go back for just a second. Right here, money flows through me daily. And if you'll watch carefully, all the vowels will disappear. You just have consonants left. I'll give you a couple more seconds to get that one. And then after we do that, we have a line of what looks like nonsense, but it'll make sense in a minute. What we're going to do from here is get rid of any repeating letters. So if you look at the M at the beginning, there's an M also toward the end. And if I do this, the repeating letters disappear. And I hope that's making sense right here. You can use this in everyday life, and I'll give you a couple of more tips after we're done here. So M, when I was playing with my sigils and putting them together, I actually made my capital M a lowercase m so it would fit and flow better with the other letters. And it looks like a lot of letters, but if you'll check it out, there's only a couple of them that have diagonal lines, and most of them have vertical lines, right? That's what I chose to use when I was creating my sigils. And I did actually 3 as samples. So just as a reminder, I have an M, N, Y, F, and that's an L, W, S, T, and D. So I've got what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 9 letters. This is what I turned it into. Scrambled them around. And I hand wrote these. I didn't have time to actually clean them up in the computer, but you kind of get the idea. The first one in the upper left is with a bunch of curlicues, because that's fine. And if you'll take a look, every single letter is there. The one on the upper right is very angular. I chose that on purpose. And then the one on the bottom is a combination. Do what works for you. Don't worry about the rest. If you like the curlicues, go for it. If you want the combination, go for it. It doesn't have to be super pretty unless you want it to be pretty. And if you want to use different colors rather than one color, you can make one letter one color. And then when you find that similar line with another letter, you can actually do it in a different color. I tend to keep mine all in one color because to me it's more uniform, and my intention will be more uniform. Like I said, do what works for you. I'm going to give you a few more seconds to play with it, and you can keep playing with it as I talk through the next slides. I hope everything is making sense. We'll take questions toward the end. And I'm going to go ahead and move on. There's such a thing as charging your sigil after you make it. So what is charging? What does it mean? Charging actually equals focused attention plus emotion. because of course you have emotion for that need, that manifestation that you want, right? Yeah. Easy charging methods are quietly gazing at the sigil to create that connection. You can also trace it with your finger. You can breathe slowly while you look at it and focus, kind of like into a gazing pool or a mirror. You can feel the outcome as if it already has happened and if it has already become real. Think about that. Focus on the outcome as if it's already happened and it is already real. The is present tense. We're using present tense here. The key phrase to focus on here is this is already unfolding. So again, present tense. There's no chanting required, no special altar set up, no special anything. You can just have a piece of paper, a pencil, or a pen, and that's all you need. So, using sigils in everyday life and applying them, um, really good practical placement ideas are in a wallet, a cell phone case, a journal, maybe by your bedside, a planner where you write stuff, under a candle or a spell jar, or you can write it on a sticky note and put it on your refrigerator. When we talk about where a sigil lives, we're really talking about how often the conscious mind reacts with it or interacts with it. There's no better option, only different psychological and energetic effects. Okay. So, hidden versus visible sigils. Hidden sigils, like if you place it under a spell jar or under a candle, that's subconscious work. Hidden sigils work primarily through the subconscious. It's also very helpful if you're doing shadow work to do hidden sigils. These sigils are folded into a wallet. You don't see it. Tucked into a phone case. You don't see it. Placed inside a journal, slipped under a candle, right on the back of a piece of paper. You don't look at them all the time. You don't have like a regular practice where you go check everything. You might even forget exactly where they are. And this is not a flaw or an issue. That's the point. Hidden sigils are just hidden. They reduce overthinking. They can prevent doubt loops. They can bypass the, is this working yet? Voice in your head. They allow the intention to run quietly in the background, which is the whole point. Let it do its work. You've already set it in motion. You've already given your sigil the instructions. The subconscious doesn't need reminders. What it needs is permission to do its work. Hidden sigils are really ideal for prosperity or safety, long-term goals, anything that triggers impatience, versus visual sigils. Now, visual sigils are the conscious reinforcement. They work through conscious uh, um, places where you can see your sigils daily. You can put your sigils where your eyes are going to fall naturally, like maybe on a mirror next to the front door if you want, or tape it to a wall in your bathroom so you'll see it every day when you walk in. Let's see. You can revisit this intentionally and specifically. Visual sigils act like gentle affirmations without words and also emotional anchors. Uh, they're pattern interpreters for negative thinking. They interrupt the process and turn negatives into positives because that's that positive reinforcement when you look at those words or you look at that symbol and remember the words. Each glance subtly realigns your focus towards the desired outcome, which is whatever you want to manifest. Visual sigils are really good for confidence, motivation, emotional regulations, habits, and routines. And you can blend both of them, visual and hidden, which is one of the best things. Um, for example, get my notes here. A hidden prosperity sigil in your wallet or a visual calm or focus sigil on your desk can create layered magic. One works quietly, the other works consciously. Hidden sigils change the current, the energy flow. Visual sigils change the direction you're steering that energy. Both are effective, they work together. So, I wanted to talk about letting go without forgetting about stuff. Let me explain about balance here. You don't obsess, you don't doubt, you allow the space for your intention to work. You can also reinforce your work with what's called reframing, which is like rethinking something. Uh, an easy way to give an example is that I've given the instruction, now I live my life easily. So you're reframing it. This is letting go without forgetting. A lot of people think letting go means forgetting the intention, not caring anymore, distracting themselves, and this is just not true. It often creates too much anxiety, and anxiety, as everybody knows, can bring negativity and doubt and all kinds of those issues we do not need. Um, so instead, we simply reframe how we think about it. So you can tell yourself when you reframe, I've already placed the order. Now I stop hovering over the counter. Think about ordering your favorite beverage from your barista. You don't hover over it and watch the whole process unless other people do and you're used to doing it. But you trust the process, you trust it's going to get done. The order was clear, the system knows how to fill it. Sigils work the same way. Letting go actually means you don't monitor results constantly. You don't rewrite the sigil every day. You don't emotionally check for progress. But you also don't deny that it exists. You live as if it already is unfolding. You act as though momentum has started. Small shifts are meaningful, and timing is cooperating. Stay open, not tense. Remember, letting go is relaxed confidence, not detachment. And the reason why this works is that obsession signals distrust, relaxation signals permission. Your nervous system matters just as much as your intention. And just a real quick word here about ethics and safety and self trust, which is kind of a sticky wicket. Simple, very simple ethical guidelines are focus on yourself, avoid controlling others, choose outcomes that benefit, not harm. Okay? Trying to get this to scroll. There we go. So I want to talk about tailoring sigils also. Prosperity magic versus daily life survival magic. Sigils are most effective when they're specific in purpose, of course. You have that one focus that you really, really want to manifest. The sigil helps, even if it remains simple in wording. Here we distinguish between two very common categories. The prosperity focused sigil works best when they emphasize flow, easy flow, not force. They allow multiple avenues, avoid rigid expectations. So that makes sense. What prosperity sigils are for are money, opportunities, stability, resources, support, and ease. EASE, ease. Prosperity sigils also focus on movement or openness, arrival, and continuity. A couple of examples of this are money flows steadily or resources arrive easily, or I am financially supported. And one more, income grows naturally. What you need to avoid is exact dollar amounts early on before you start getting really used to how this type of magic works. And later on, when you've got a little experience, then if you have like a big bill or something coming due, you can actually focus on that dollar amount with that sigil. Also, avoid deadlines, avoid desperate language, avoid saying I need or I have to have, and things like that. It's easier to do it with a positive attitude. Prosperity magic works better when it feels normal, not miraculous. Placement tips for prosperity sigils. Again, the wallet, really good place. Bank statements, budget notebooks, under cash jars, inside planners, things like that. Prosperity sigils benefit from being close to money, also close to decision making notes. Uh, these are very quietly persistent. So, on the flip side, we have daily life sigil magic. These are about functioning well in the real world. And this is the kind of magic that keeps you steady, helps you cope, makes life easier and smoother. Survival magic covers calm and energy, protection, focus, emotional balance, and rest. Some examples are I remain calm, or my energy is steady, or I am safe today. And one more, my mind is clear. These sigils are often short term, they're situational, and they're emotion focused. Some placement tips for life survival magic sigils, or mirrors or phone lock screens. You can take a picture of your sigil and put it on the lock screen, even though it's hand drawn. Workspaces, car dashboards, bedside tables. I have a sigil with in a protection pouch that I made, and I think that was 8 years ago. And I actually, we're going to go over this. I actually refresh it every couple of months, and it stays in my car. It keeps me safe, or it helps keep me safe, besides me following the rules of the road. So the sigils can be refreshed more often than the others because they support current conditions, not long arcs to something to manifest. Okay. So which one are you going to work with? Ask yourself one simple question. Am I calling something in, or am I stabilizing what's already here? So calling something in, you'd want a prosperity sigil. If you're stabilizing, use a survival sigil. You can and often should, of course, have one of each active at the same time, which brings me to refreshing things. So, how do you refresh a sigil, and what are the benefits, and how do you do it? First of all, refreshing does not mean starting over or fixing a mistake. It doesn't mean redoing the intention because it doesn't work. Okay. Refreshing simply means reintroducing attention and energy to an existing intention. Think of it like this: you're watering a plant, you're reopening a window, just updating a reminder. The sigil already knows its job. You've inherently drawn it in by combining those letters. So when should it be refreshed? A sigil may benefit from refreshing when life circumstances shift, emotional charge has faded, uh, when the sigil has been in place a long time, when you start feeling disconnected from it, or when you want to gently realign without pressure. Daily life and survival sigils are refreshed more often because They are short term. Prosperity sigils don't need refreshing that often. Now, there's four simple methods about how to refresh a sigil. First of all, method one, attention refresh. You look at the symbol, breathe slowly, recall the original intention. So focus on it, remember the emotion, remember the intention. Think or say, this is already unfolding. You don't have to visualize. Uh, you don't have to force the emotion. Just remember how you felt when you drew it and when you wrote the phrase and then drew it. Method two, you breathe and touch. So trace the sigil very lightly with a finger and take slow breaths 3 times. On the exhale of each breath, imagine tension leaving your body. On the inhale, imagine steadiness returning. This is especially effective for calm, protection, focus, and emotional balance. And method three is environmental refresh. You can place the sigil near a candle, sunlight, moonlight, or a favorite object, maybe a quartz crystal, somewhere on your altar that it will have an energetic connection. Um, this method works very well for people who prefer symbolic actions over mental focus. And when you do put the sigil next to a candle to refresh it, leave it there for at least a few minutes, 3, 5, 10, or you can leave it overnight. When you get the feeling that it's done, then it's done. Okay. Listen to your inner voice. There's a fourth method also is to redraw, and this is without rewriting the specific original intent. So when you redraw the sigil, it refreshes it. It keeps the same intention because you're not redoing that sentence that we wrote. Let the lines evolve naturally. It doesn't have to be identical to the first one you created. This allows the intention to mature and adjust, and it grows with you. So it doesn't have to remain the same. You are not changing the desire, you're only updating the expression. Um, Benefits of refreshing a sigil are that it prevents stagnation, reconnects you emotionally, it reduces doubt, and it reinforces trust, and it supports your nervous system regulation because you don't get so anxious about things. Most importantly, it keeps the work gentle instead of forced. Remember, magic responds better to cooperation than pressure. And there's things about what not to do when refreshing. You should actually avoid refreshing out of anxiety, rewriting because you're checking for results, refreshing daily out of impatience, or adding new intentions to the same sigil. If that's going to be the case, this last one, totally redo it. Start with a new sentence and a new sigil. If you feel frantic, pause first. Calm comes before effectiveness. Do a little meditation, do some breathing work, maybe go draw a picture or go watch a funny movie or something, and then come back and reconnect. Let your mind kind of refresh itself, give it a different direction to focus, and then return to your sigil work. Now, this next part is a guided meditation. And I didn't find the correct music, but I still have my little script. If you will find a nice, comfortable seat with your feet on the floor, we can start. This guided meditation is for grounding and integrating your sigil work. It can be done seated or standing. You can even sit at your desk or on the floor. You can lie down if you'd like. To start, just close your eyes if that feels comfortable, or you can soften your gaze. Take a slow breath in through your nose And then gently exhale through your mouth. Feel where your body makes connection with the floor or the chair or the ground beneath you. Imagine your weight gently settling downward, not heavy, just supported. Bring your intention to your hands. Notice your temperature. Notice their stillness. Breathing in, a nice deep breath filling your lungs, and then exhale gently. Remember, exhale all anxiety, all stress, all tension. Now, without effort, in your mind, recall the sigil you drew. You don't need to see it clearly. Just remember that it exists. Silently say to yourself, the intention has been set. Let's take another breath in, nice and slow. Feeling the air come all the way through the body. And then gently exhale. And silently say to yourself, the process is unfolding as it should. Let's take another breath in, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing down your spine, and all the way down your arms and legs, relaxing your neck also. Then silently say to yourself, I return to my life supported and calm and at ease. And let's take another breath in and then gently exhale. And we're going to wiggle your toes and then wiggle your fingers, moving hands and feet, opening your eyes if they're closed, moving your ankles and your wrists, arms and legs, elbows and knees, moving the whole body as you would when you wake up refreshed in the morning. And breathe in easy and exhale and know that your sigil is working. So, in closing here, I'd like to invite you to imagine that your symbol is working. The sigil is exactly how it should be. Life is becoming slightly easier. Small improvements, stacking up gently, will help manifest what you desire. So please remember, you don't need to do anything else today. The work has been done. And now, just simply live and enjoy life. I want to thank you very much. If you all have questions, we will go ahead and stop the recording in a moment. Or if you even have comments or observations, then I would invite you to share. And I wanted to thank you all very much. I appreciate everybody being here. Give yourself a pat on the back. You did it. Yay.